Prime Minister Mark Carney says Canada is taking a lesson from Poland when it comes to defence spending. He's in Warsaw this hour, sitting down with Poland's president after meeting last hour with Polish Prime Minister Donald Tusk. We had their remarks live for you as we began our program today. Carney is in Poland the day after his recommitment in Kyiv that Canada will be part of Ukraine's security guarantees if there is a ceasefire or peace agreement. Now, that includes potentially sending in Canadian troops. He did not exclude that possibility. This morning, Carney is praising Poland's strong support for Ukraine and the country's long-standing relationship with Canada.
We're together working side by side in Ukraine, together side by side in NATO, and if I may say, we learn much from the Prime Minister, from his government, including the importance of pulling our full weight in NATO. And it will take us a few years to reach Polish levels of commitment. It's possible. But it's possible. And we have made that commitment. We will quadruple our spending on defense between now and the end of the decade. And to do that right, to do that properly, we need the best partners in partnership with Poland, in aerospace, in other areas, and in partnership with Europe through that intensified defense partnership.
Evan Dyer is with our CBC News Parliamentary Bureau, and he is traveling with the Prime Minister and covering this European swing. As he reports this morning, this visit is part of the Prime Minister's attempt to pivot Canada's economic and defense relationships to Europe.
I think that one of the sort of victories, I suppose, or wins that Mark Carney would want to point to would be the invitation for Canada to be the lead nation at a fairly important European Defence Expo, which is the one that's held in this Polish city of Kielce every year. And next year, Canada will be the lead nation of about 60 national delegations that go there. So, of course, Canada has been trying to insert itself into European defense production agreements, into the sort of network of buying and selling of arms between European NATO members, partly for trade reasons, but also because Canada feels that not only have its trade relations with the United States been threatened, but also its sovereignty has been threatened by talk of annexation and so on. So there is just a general attempt here to pivot to Europe. That's a lot of what this trip is about. It's partly about Ukraine and Ukraine's needs in its war with Russia, but it's also about Canada's own attempts to draw closer to Europe, both in terms of trade and in terms of defense. So that would be seen as a win here in Poland, and it's not really that surprising because the relationship between Poland and Canada has grown extremely close over the last decade. Poland has become increasingly important, both within the European Union, where it is the fastest growing economy, and within NATO, where it's now the largest military in NATO after the United States and Turkey. In fact, Poland's military is almost 10 times the size of the military of Canada with a similar population. This is a country that spends almost 5% of its GDP on defense, making it one of the biggest spenders in NATO. And that is partly, well, it's almost really exclusively because of Poland's geographical location and history. So it's a country that Canada has got a lot of interests shared with, and it's also, of course, the country which Canada uses to train the Ukrainian army. Operation Unifier is here, and Mark Carney met with some of the Canadian soldiers who were involved in that training this morning.
Evan Dyer, as he covers the Prime Minister in Warsaw this morning. Now, we're learning more about Canada's commitment to support Ukraine. Part of that support is a $2 billion pledge that includes a promise to buy $500 million worth of U.S. military equipment for Ukraine. National Defense Minister David McGuinty also in Poland, and he was asked about that spending earlier this morning.
What I can say is that the Ukrainians have worked with the Americans to provide a list of supplies that they require. And Canada has agreed to provide what's on that list. We're not the only country, we're the third or fourth country to join in that effort. It is part and parcel of the $2 billion assistance package for defense. And of course, those details will be rolled out in due course as those supplies are in fact forwarded to Ukraine, which will begin very shortly.
The minister tells reporters he couldn't comment on whether Canada's promise to buy weapons from the U.S. could also be part of a wider trade and defense deal with the White House. Our senior defense reporter is Murray Brewster, and he's covering this as well. He asked if Canada could supply Ukraine with another missile defense system. Minister McGuinty says Ottawa would have to see what's available.